Alex Rock stood at his office window, watching the Seattle rain trace patterns on the glass. At 53, he had built everything he'd dreamed of, a thriving construction company, a beautiful colonial home in Bellevue, and a family that was the envy of his social circle. Yet lately, hairline cracks had begun appearing in the foundation of his perfect life, spreading like spider webs across the surface of his contentment. His wife, Catherine, had changed over the past few months. The warm, vivacious woman who had been his partner for 25 years had become distant, her blue eyes holding secrets he couldn't decipher. Their conversations had devolved into perfunctory exchanges about schedules and social obligations. Even their weekly date nights, a tradition spanning 2 decades, had become exercises in polite small talk. "Mr. Rock." His assistant's voice pulled him from his reverie. "Your son James is here to see you." Alex turned, grateful for the interruption. James, his youngest at 24, had recently joined the company as a project manager. While his older brother Michael had pursued a career in finance in New York, James had chosen to follow in his father's footsteps. "Send him in, Carol." James entered, his usually confident stride hesitant. The boy, no, young man, had his mother's eyes and Alex's build, but today he looked troubled, his shoulders tense beneath his tailored shirt. "Dad, we need to talk about the Riverside project." Alex gestured to the leather chairs facing his desk. "What's wrong?" "I've been reviewing the contractor reports, and something doesn't add up." James pulled out his tablet, fingers dancing across the screen. "The materials costs are significantly higher than market rate, and there are payments to vendors I can't verify." A cold feeling settled in Alex's stomach. The Riverside project was their biggest development to date, a luxury apartment complex that would cement their reputation in the high-end real estate market. The project manager was Victor Reynolds, Catherine's cousin and Alex's friend of 30 years. "Are you sure about this?" Alex kept his voice steady, professional. "I've triple-checked everything." James looked up, his expression torn between duty and discomfort. "Dad, I think someone's skimming from the project. And given the authorization levels required, it has to be someone high up." Alex's mind raced. Victor had been acting strange lately, canceling their regular golf games and avoiding direct conversations about the project finances. But surely his oldest friend wouldn't. His phone buzzed, a text from Catherine, "Having dinner with Sarah tonight. Don't wait up." Sarah Mitchell. Victor's wife. The two women had become inseparable lately, their shopping trips and dinner dates increasing in frequency as Catherine's time at home decreased. "Send me the reports," Alex said finally. "I'll look into it personally." After James left, Alex sat at his desk, staring at the spreadsheets but not really seeing them. A memory surfaced, last week's charity gala, watching Catherine and Victor in deep conversation at the bar, their heads close together. He'd thought nothing of it at the time, they were family, after all. But now. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out a small black device. His friend Derek, a private investigator, had given it to him months ago during a particularly paranoid moment. "Just in case," Derek had said. "Sometimes it's better to know." Alex had dismissed it then as unnecessary paranoia. Now, turning the GPS tracker over in his hands, he wasn't so sure. The rain continued its relentless descent outside his window as Alex made a decision that would change everything. He slipped the tracker into his briefcase, already planning how to place it in Catherine's car during dinner. Some truths, once unveiled, can never be buried again. As Alex would soon discover, the fault lines running through his perfect life ran deeper than he could possibly imagine, and the tremors were only beginning. His phone buzzed again, another text, this time from an unknown number. "We need to talk about Catherine and Victor. Meet me at Cascade Coffee tomorrow, 7 a.m. Come alone." Alex stared at the message, his heart pounding. The carefully constructed walls of his life were about to crumble, and he wasn't sure if what lay beneath would destroy him or set him free. The morning air bit cold and sharp as Alex sat in his car outside Cascade Coffee, watching early risers hurry past with their paper cups and downturned faces. He'd barely slept, spending most of the night reviewing project documents that revealed a pattern of financial irregularities stretching back months. Each discovery felt like another crack in the foundation of his trust. The GPS tracker lay heavy in his pocket, still unused. He hadn't been able to bring himself to place it in Catherine's car, the final thread of trust holding him back. 25 years of marriage deserved more than suspicious surveillance, didn't it? A tap on his window startled him. Through the glass, he saw Sarah Mitchell, Victor's wife, her face drawn and pale in the weak morning light. His stomach clenched. So she was his mysterious messenger. Inside the coffee shop, they chose a corner table away from other patrons. Sarah's hands trembled as she wrapped them around her untouched coffee cup. "I've known for 3 months," she said without preamble, her voice barely above a whisper. "The affair. Victor and Catherine. I thought if I pretended not to see it, things would go back to normal." The words hit Alex like physical blows, each one destroying another pillar of his reality. How? The single word carried the weight of his crumbling world. Sarah pulled out her phone, sliding it across the table. Text messages, photos, hotel receipts, a digital trail of betrayal documented with painful thoroughness. Their business meetings always coincided. The late-night calls. The weekend conferences. She laughed bitterly. "I hired a private investigator last month. I needed to be sure before." Before what? Alex's voice sounded strange to his own ears, distant and hollow. "Before I showed you this." She pulled an envelope from her purse, handling it like it might explode. The investigator found something else. Something worse. The documents inside told a story that made the affair seem almost trivial in comparison. Bank statements, offshore accounts, falsified contracts. Victor had been systematically embezzling from the company for years, using his position in their friendship as cover. And Catherine's signature appeared on key documents, her complicity clear in black and white. "They're planning to leave," Sarah said softly. "Next week. After the Riverside project payment clears. Victor's been liquidating assets, transferring funds. They have tickets to the Maldives, one way." Alex stared at the evidence of his life's implosion, remembering James's concerned face, the subtle signs he'd ignored. His son had seen what he'd been too blind to notice. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Sarah's eyes held a mixture of pain and determination. "Because they destroyed both our lives, Alex. And I want them to pay." His phone buzzed, Catherine, asking about dinner plans for their anniversary next month. The casual deception in her message made his chest ache. "I have a plan," Sarah continued, leaning forward. "But I need your help. Victor trusts you completely, that's why this worked so well for so long. We can use that trust against him." As she outlined her proposal, Alex felt something shift inside him. The hurt and betrayal crystallized into something harder, colder. He thought of James, whose integrity had pushed him to question authority, even his own uncle's. He thought of the employees whose livelihoods were jeopardized by Victor's greed. He thought of the years he'd spent building something meaningful, only to watch it nearly crumble under the weight of lies. "There's something else you should know," Sarah added, her voice catching. "Last week, I overheard them talking. They've been manipulating your medical results. The heart condition you've been treating. The medications you're taking." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "They needed you distracted, worried about your health while they set everything up." The coffee cup in Alex's hand shattered, hot liquid spreading across the table like blood. He barely noticed the burn, his mind racing through the past year, the mysterious symptoms, the convenient diagnosis, Catherine's insistence on managing his medication schedule. They hadn't just planned to steal his money and his company. They'd been slowly poisoning him, playing a long game that would have left him broken or worse. A barista rushed over with napkins, concerned about the broken cup. Alex barely heard her, his focus entirely on Sarah's next words. "I have proof of everything," she said quietly. "And I know exactly how to make them face justice. But we have to move fast, and we have to move smart. Are you with me?" Alex looked down at his wedding ring, the gold band that had once symbolized unbreakable trust. With deliberate movements, he slipped it off and placed it in his pocket. "Tell me everything." Outside, the Seattle rain had turned to hail, pelting the windows with frozen fury. Thunder rolled in the distance, a preview of the storm to come. Alex felt the weight of the GPS tracker in his pocket and realized he wouldn't need it after all. Sometimes the truth finds its way into the light without technology, through the pain and courage of another betrayed heart. The following days unfolded like scenes from someone else's life. Alex maintained his routine with mechanical precision: meetings, handshakes, gentle smiles at Catherine's practiced deceptions. Each moment felt surreal, viewed through the lens of his new understanding. The medication she handed him each morning with loving concern now sat untouched in his pocket, silent evidence of her betrayal. In quiet moments, he found himself studying old photographs, searching for signs he might have missed. When had Catherine's touch become performance rather than affection? When had Victor's friendly clap on the shoulder become a gesture of mockery rather than camaraderie? James noticed the change in his father, corners of worry creasing his young face. "Dad, are you okay? You seem different." They were alone in Alex's office, reviewing legitimate project documents among the web of lies. Alex looked at his son, earnest, honorable James, who had tried to warn him, and made a decision. "No," he admitted quietly. "I'm not okay. But I will be." He pulled out the financial records James had flagged earlier. "You were right about the irregularities. And there's more. Much more." Over the next hour, Alex shared everything with his son, watching James's expression shift from shock to anger to deep sadness. When he finished, James sat in silence for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" Alex thought of Sarah's plan, elegant in its simplicity yet devastating in its potential impact. "What I have to. But I need you to trust me, and to keep working as if nothing's wrong. Can you do that?" James straightened in his chair, his jaw set with determination. "Whatever you need, Dad. I'm with you." The plan took shape in late-night meetings with Sarah, each detail meticulously crafted. She proved to be remarkably strategic, her months of silent observation providing crucial insights into Victor and Catherine's routines and vulnerabilities. "Victor's narcissism is his weakness," she explained during one session. "He needs to believe he's the smartest person in the room. That's why the embezzlement worked. He enjoyed outsmarting you almost as much as he enjoyed the money." Alex nodded, remembering countless boardroom meetings where Victor had showboated his financial expertise, laying the groundwork for trust that would later prove poisonous. What neither of them expected was the anonymous note that appeared on Alex's desk 3 days into their plotting. "I know what they did. I know what you're planning. Let me help." The handwriting was familiar, but Alex couldn't place it. Sarah studied the note with growing concern. "Could they have discovered we know?" "No," Alex said slowly. "This is something else. Someone else." That someone revealed themselves the next morning when Carol, Alex's assistant of 15 years, closed his office door and spoke words that changed everything. "Mr. Rock, there's something you need to know about your brother Michael." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Michael, Alex's eldest son, had apparently discovered Victor's scheme months ago while working at his investment firm in New York. He'd been quietly gathering evidence, building a case, but hesitated to come forward without proof of Catherine's involvement. "He's been protecting you," Carol explained softly. "We both have. But now that you know." She pulled out a USB drive. "This contains everything Michael collected. Bank records, correspondence, meetings recorded without their knowledge. But there's something else, something even Sarah Mitchell doesn't know. The footage was grainy but clear enough, Victor in his office late at night, arguing with someone off camera. The date stamp showed it was from 6 months ago. The voice that responded to Victor's angry gestures sent chills down Alex's spine. Thomas Chen, a business rival whose company had mysteriously collapsed last year after a series of accidents and regulatory problems. Their plan was bigger than just embezzlement, Carol continued. They've been systematically destroying your competitors, using insider information and illegal tactics. The Riverside project was meant to be their crowning achievement, not just stealing your money, but ruining you completely. They wanted to make it look like you were responsible for everything. Alex sat heavily in his chair, the weight of this new information pressing on his chest. The scope of the betrayal had grown beyond personal hurt into something far more sinister. This wasn't just about love turned to poison, it was about power, dominance, and calculated destruction. His phone buzzed, a text from Catherine. "Dinner tonight? I've missed you lately." The words, once cherished, now read like lines from a horror story. Alex thought of the untaken heart medication in his pocket, of James's worried face, of Michael working silently to protect him from across the country. He thought of Sarah, whose quiet strength had helped him face the truth, and Carol, whose loyalty had extended far beyond her job description. He looked up at Carol, seeing for the first time the shadows under her eyes that spoke of long nights spent protecting him from shadows he hadn't even known existed. "Tell Michael, tell him it's time to come home. We're going to need everyone we can trust for what comes next." As Carol left his office, Alex turned to the window, watching the play of light and shadow across the Seattle skyline. Sometimes the deepest betrayals reveal the truest loyalties, he realized. And sometimes the path to justice requires walking through the darkest shadows to reach the light. His phone buzzed again, Sarah this time, emergency. "Victor's moving faster than we thought. Meeting in 30 minutes. Bring everything." Alex grabbed his coat, his mind racing. The game had changed, the stakes raised even higher. But for the first time since this nightmare began, he didn't feel alone in the gathering storm. The evening light painted long shadows across Alex's office as he sat with Michael, their first face-to-face meeting in months. His oldest son had aged somehow, the weight of secret knowledge etching lines around his eyes that hadn't been there at Christmas. "I should have told you sooner," Michael said softly, spreading documents across the desk. "But every time I came close, I'd remember how happy you seemed with her, how much you trusted Victor. I couldn't bear to be the one who shattered your world." Alex reached across the desk, gripping his son's hand. "You were protecting me, just like you always have." The words caught in his throat as memories surfaced. Michael at 12, standing up to neighborhood bullies threatening his younger brother. Michael at 16, working part-time to help with James's college fund. Michael now, watching from afar as poison crept through their family's foundations. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from Sarah. Her voice trembled with barely contained panic. "Alex, Catherine just left our house. She was asking strange questions about your medical history, about whether you'd seemed different lately. I think they're planning to accelerate their timeline." A cold dread settled in Alex's stomach as he remembered the morning's exchange with Catherine. She'd been unusually insistent about his medication, watching him with an intensity that had seemed like concern at the time. Now he understood, she'd been checking for signs of their poison's effectiveness. "There's more," Sarah continued. "Victor's called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. He's going to try to force a vote on the Riverside project funding." Michael's face hardened as he listened on speakerphone. "He can't do that without Dad's approval." "He can if he convinces the board that Dad is mentally incompetent due to health issues," Carol interjected, entering the office with a stack of papers. "I just intercepted these documents headed for the board, fabricated medical reports suggesting cognitive decline." The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. They weren't just planning to steal the company's money, they were going to strip Alex of everything, including his dignity, making him appear unstable and unfit before disappearing with millions. James burst into the office, his face pale. "Dad, Uncle Victor just showed up at Mom's yoga class. They're leaving together, but not toward home. I had Thompson from security follow them." Alex felt the walls closing in, years of manipulation and lies crystallizing into this moment of crisis. But something else was crystallizing too, a strength he'd forgotten he possessed, forged in the early days when he'd built his company from nothing. "Michael, call Judge Harrison. We need those emergency injunctions ready by morning. James, get me every original document from the Riverside Project files. Carol, contact the FBI agent you've been working with. Sarah." He paused, hearing the quiet determination in her breathing. "Are you ready?" "I've been ready for 3 months," she replied. "The recording devices are in place. If they meet at the usual hotel tonight, we'll have everything." A text lit up Alex's phone. "Catherine, working late tonight, darling. Don't wait up." The casual cruelty of her deception no longer had the power to wound him. Instead, he felt a calm clarity descending. "Dad," Michael said hesitantly, "there's something else you need to know. About Mom's first husband." The revelation that followed shook Alex to his core. Catherine's first marriage hadn't ended in tragedy as she'd claimed. The man was very much alive, living under a different name after surviving an attempted poisoning 27 years ago. The pattern wasn't new, it was refined, perfected over decades with Victor's help. As the truth of Catherine's past unfolded, Alex thought of all the quiet moments, the gentle touches, the loving gestures that had seemed so genuine. Each memory now reflected back at him like shards of a broken mirror, cutting deep but finally showing him the truth. "We move tonight," he decided, his voice steady. "But first, there's something I need to do." In his private bathroom, Alex removed the false back of his medicine cabinet, a hiding place even Catherine didn't know about. Inside lay a small recorder and a stack of handwritten journals. His own insurance policy started months ago when the first hints of wrongness had tickled his subconscious. "I started recording everything the day James first questioned the Riverside numbers," he explained to his sons. "Every meeting, every conversation. I may have trusted too deeply, but some part of me never stopped being the survivor who built this company from scratch." The office phone rang, Victor's private line. Alex met Michael's eyes, then James's, seeing in them the unshakable loyalty that had been his true foundation all along. He reached for the phone, ready to play his part one last time. But as his hand touched the receiver, a message popped up on his computer screen that changed everything: "Access denied, system lock initiated." Someone had just launched a massive cyber attack on the company's networks. The game was changing yet again, and time was running out. In the pre-dawn hours, Alex sat alone in his home office, surrounded by the artifacts of his life with Catherine. Wedding photos, family vacations, moments that had seemed precious but now revealed themselves as carefully constructed scenes in an elaborate deception. His fingers traced the edge of an old photograph, Catherine holding newborn James, her smile radiant. Had any of it been real? The quiet was broken by a gentle knock. Sarah entered, her face pale but composed in the soft lamplight. The past weeks had transformed their relationship from allies of convenience into something deeper, two souls united by shared wounds, finding strength in mutual understanding. "The FBI team is in position," she said softly, settling into the chair across from him. "Victor's security system has been compromised. We'll have access to everything once they make their move." Alex nodded, his mind drifting to their last family dinner, just 3 days ago. Catherine had touched his hand, asked about his medication, played the role of devoted wife with Oscar-worthy precision. The memory no longer brought pain, instead, he felt a profound sadness for the woman who had spent decades perfecting the art of destruction. "I found something else," Sarah continued, pulling out a worn leather journal. "In Victor's study, hidden behind the false panel you mentioned. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. It's Catherine's diary from 25 years ago. Alex, the depth of their planning, the coldness of it. He reached across the desk, steadying her hands with his own. You don't have to protect me anymore, Sarah. I'm stronger than they thought. The diary revealed a truth more chilling than either had imagined. Catherine and Victor's relationship predated their marriages, a partnership forged in a shared appetite for power and manipulation. Their victims, including Sarah and Alex, had been chosen for specific traits: emotional openness, capacity for trust, financial success combined with generous spirits. We weren't just targets, Sarah whispered, her voice catching. We were chosen because our capacity for love made us vulnerable. They saw our greatest strength as a weakness to exploit. Dawn was breaking outside, painting the sky in shades of pearl and gold, when Michael called. Dad, we've got movement. Catherine just accessed the offshore accounts. They're trying to transfer everything now. Alex felt an odd sense of calm. Right on schedule. Carol. All systems are in place, Mr. Rock, his assistant's steady voice replied. The FBI has full access to their network. Every transaction is being tracked and documented. James's voice joined the conference call. Security teams are in position at both exits. Agent Morrison says they're ready when you are, Dad. Alex stood, straightening his tie in the mirror. The face that looked back at him was different from the one that had trustingly accepted Catherine's poison concern all those months ago. This face bore the weathered strength of someone who had walked through fire and emerged not broken, but refined. Sarah, he asked softly. She moved to stand beside him, her reflection joining his in the mirror. Two survivors, carrying their scars with dignity. I'm ready. The drive to the office was silent, the city still sleeping as they wound through empty streets. In his pocket, Alex carried Catherine's diary and a small voice recorder, insurance against the desperate moves of cornered predators. They found Catherine and Victor in the conference room, surrounded by open laptops and scattered papers. The look of shocked recognition on their faces quickly morphed into calculated concern. Alex, darling, Catherine started, rising with practiced grace. You should be resting. Dr. Harrison said. Dr. Harrison doesn't exist, Alex interrupted quietly. Just like your first husband's death was fiction. Just like every loving gesture you've ever made was a performance. The mask slipped for just a moment, a flash of cold calculation in those familiar blue eyes. Victor moved slightly, positioning himself between Catherine and the door. You're not well, Alex, he said smoothly. The stress of the business, the medications, you're not thinking clearly. Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. Actually, he hasn't taken your poison for weeks. Neither of us are your victims anymore. The room filled with federal agents, led by a grim-faced Agent Morrison. As Catherine and Victor were read their rights, Alex noticed something remarkable: the trembling in Sarah's hands had stopped. They both stood straight, unbowed, as years of manipulation and betrayal were finally dragged into the light. Catherine turned at the door, her mask cracking to reveal the coldness beneath. You'll never prove anything. We planned everything too carefully, covered every trace. Alex smiled gently, thinking of all the quiet allies who had worked in the shadows to protect him: Carol's meticulous record-keeping, Michael's patient investigation, James's moral courage, and Sarah's resilient spirit. That was your final mistake, he said softly. You were so focused on breaking us that you never noticed how many people were helping us heal. As they were led away, Alex felt Sarah's hand slip into his, not a gesture of romantic affection, but the quiet solidarity of fellow survivors. They had both lost the marriages they thought they had, but in the ashes of those relationships, they had found something perhaps more precious: their own unbreakable strength. His phone buzzed, a message from James. Thompson found something in the lab. You need to see this now. Alex looked at Sarah, seeing his own mix of exhaustion and determination reflected in her eyes. Their victory was significant, but something told him the story wasn't over yet. Sometimes healing meant facing every hidden truth, no matter how dark. The lab results lay spread across Alex's desk like a map of betrayal. Thompson, their head of security, stood quietly as Alex and Sarah absorbed the implications of what they'd found. The sophisticated toxicology analysis revealed a truth more haunting than they'd imagined: Catherine's poisoning campaign hadn't started with Alex. There were others, Thompson explained gently. Before both of you. The lab found traces of the same compounds in samples from 3 unsolved cases in different states. All successful business owners, all with similar patterns of mysterious illness followed by financial collapse. Sarah's hands trembled as she lifted a photo, a family portrait from 15 years ago, showing a smiling man with his 2 young daughters. David Chen, Catherine's second victim. He had survived, barely, but lost everything in the process. He's alive, Thompson continued. Living under a different name in Arizona. His daughters, they never knew what really happened to their father. They think he abandoned them. Alex felt the weight of this new knowledge settle in his chest. Even now, months after uncovering the initial betrayal, Catherine's web of destruction continued to reveal new layers of pain. The autumn sun painted warm patterns on his office walls as Alex made a decision. Find them, he said quietly. Find all of them. It's time to heal more than just our own wounds. Over the next few months, a different kind of story unfolded. Alex and Sarah, along with Michael and James, began the delicate work of reaching out to Catherine and Victor's previous victims. Each story they uncovered was a mirror of their own pain, but also a testament to human resilience. David Chen's reunion with his daughters became a turning point. Alex hosted them at his home, watching as 20 years of misunderstanding and hurt began to heal under the gentle light of truth. The girls, now women with families of their own, had carried the weight of perceived abandonment for so long. Seeing them embrace their father, understanding at last that he had been a victim, not a deserter, sparked something profound in Alex's healing process. Sarah found unexpected solace in helping these families rebuild. Her background in financial planning, once used to maintain her picture-perfect life with Victor, became a tool for empowerment as she helped victims reclaim their financial independence. One evening, as they sat in Alex's garden watching the sunset, Sarah voiced what they'd both been feeling. "We're not just survivors anymore," she said softly. "We're guides for others walking this path." Alex nodded, thinking of the support group they'd started. Twice a month, his living room filled with people sharing stories of manipulation, betrayal, and, increasingly, recovery. The voices of healing had grown stronger than the echoes of pain. James had taken over day-to-day operations of the company, his natural integrity becoming its new foundation. Michael split his time between New York and Seattle, using his financial expertise to create a foundation supporting victims of financial abuse and exploitation. The criminal trials were ongoing, a slow process of justice that revealed new horrors with each passing week. Catherine and Victor's network of deception had spread further than anyone imagined, touching lives across decades. But with each revelation, more survivors stepped forward, finding strength in shared experience and mutual support. Alex kept Catherine's diary, not as a reminder of betrayal, but as a testament to his own journey from victim to survivor to healer. The pages that had once held the blueprint of his destruction now served as a powerful tool in understanding and preventing similar abuse. 1 year to the day after their confrontation in the conference room, Alex stood in his garden, planting new roses. Sarah worked beside him, their comfortable silence born of shared understanding and mutual respect. Their relationship had evolved into something neither had expected, a deep friendship forged in adversity and strengthened by purpose. "Do you ever wonder," Sarah asked, patting soil around a tender shoot, "if we could have seen it sooner? Protected ourselves somehow?" Alex considered the question, watching a butterfly land on one of last year's blooms. "I think we see it now," he said finally. "And we help others see it too. That's what matters." Later that evening, as his family gathered for dinner, James with his new fiancée, Michael home from New York, and Sarah whose presence had become as natural as breathing, Alex looked around the table and felt an unexpected peace. The wounds of betrayal had scarred over, leaving behind not weakness, but wisdom. His phone buzzed with a text from David Chen, "My youngest graduated today. First time we've all been together as a family in 20 years. Thank you for helping us find our way back to each other." Alex smiled, thinking of all the healing yet to come, all the lives yet to be reclaimed from the shadows of manipulation and abuse. The path forward wasn't about forgetting the past, but about transforming it into a bridge towards something stronger, truer, and more beautiful than before. As the evening light faded to dusk, Alex raised his glass in a quiet toast. "To healing," he said simply. "To healing," his family echoed, their voices blending in the gathering darkness like a chorus of hope. Outside, the garden he'd planted with Sarah bloomed under the stars, each flower a testament to the simple truth they'd discovered, that even in the aftermath of profound betrayal, new life could take root and flourish, growing stronger for having overcome the storm.